Hey Gear Seekers, I'm Nick. Yesterday I went for a skate with my buddy Austin.
Hey guys, this is Austin.
No, not that Austin. Anyways, he was telling me that he bought a bunch of new parts for end of financial year. So we got a new CPU, new case, and a new GPU for really good prices. And he went and built his PC, well, rather transplanted it into this new NZXT H510 Flow, and it didn't post. I tried to basically just troubleshoot it with him while we were standing there between doing tricks or whatnot at the skate park. And he said that he didn't update the BIOS on his B450 board before putting the new CPU in. He put the old CPU back in to update the BIOS, and then it was just dead. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna figure out what's wrong with this system. If it is what I think it is, which we'll wait, I'm gonna fix it and we're gonna pimp it out a little bit so it looks nice. Because, you know, that's what we do around here. We can't just let him leave with the exact same PC that he dropped off. So we've got to Gear Seekers-ify it. So let's get into it. Austin actually ended up pulling out the CPU and the GPU to bring it over just so I could figure it out with the old hardware, because realistically, if the board isn't cooked and the CPU still works, he could potentially build another system if I replace the motherboard. Does that make sense? Or maybe I won't. I don't know what we're gonna do yet, but as I said, I've kind of already pre-tested it, but I'm gonna show you guys what's going on with it. I'm gonna put a 3050 just for testing. I wish I had a GPU that didn't require its own power. I gave one away a little while ago. It was like a 1050 Ti that I used to use for testing, but you know, you gotta do nice things for people. All right, let's get this thing powered up and I'll show you exactly what it does. Old CPU, a known working GPU, and all the original RAM and everything. Power it up. The monitor blinks for like a second and then it just says no signal. So, and we do get a light on the motherboard that flicks CPU for like a second, which leads me to think that the socket might be busted on this motherboard. So I'm gonna pull the board out, we're gonna chuck it on the test bench and just run through a bunch of different scenarios and try and troubleshoot what it is. The reason why I'm testing this on a test bench is because it will rule out one thing, and that would be a funky power supply, because this is a known good power supply. I think the RAM is fine. This whole system was working before he transplanted it. It's gonna be something really, really wacky. I'll remove a RAM module so we can see if it's something to do with memory training. Pull a RAM module out. Hey, that thing just like fired up straight up without me even touching anything on the board. No signal. Okay, pulling out this other module and we'll put the other module back in just so we can eliminate the RAM. That literally just powered up by itself. I've seen that happen before. It's a power management thing. No signal. Okay, so I'm gonna swap the CPU to another CPU that I know that will work in this without updating the BIOS to eliminate the CPU. So let's quickly change the CPU out. I hate that sound. It sounds so mechanical, like you're working on a car or something. I don't even know what CPU this is. This is a 3600. That's an odd upgrade actually when you think about it. From a 3600 to 5600X. I mean, it's not my money. I don't care. Oh, I know what's wrong with it. I can already see. I figured it out, ladies and gents. The CPU was not in the socket properly. And I recommend that when people install these CPUs that you push in the middle of the CPU in the IHS, straight down, and then, you know, then you'll know what the deal is. Now the backplate's fallen off, but this should be okay. And I guarantee this thing's gonna post now. I guarantee it's gonna post. And I guarantee this is what happened with the other CPU as well. Let's see what happens now. It'd be good if I turn the power supply on. Okay, let's see, does it post? Oh, we've got more activity on the motherboard, no signal. The mouse just lit up. The monitor just lit up. We posted. There we go. Beautiful. Okay. Well, this means that we actually don't need to replace the motherboard at all. So this is just like a note out there if you're upgrading AM4 CPUs. This is really common as well, and I have seen this happen quite a few times, and it's kind of why I wanted to check. Always make sure that when you put the CPU in the socket, push on the center of the IHS and close the lever so then it fully locks the chip into place. So yeah, we're good. So all I'm gonna do now is literally just figure out what board this is. I'm gonna update the BIOS because I don't wanna make too many changes to his system at all, but we're gonna make it look good. We're gonna put a new CPU cooler in, new fans and everything, just so it looks nice for when he comes to pick it up, so he gets a little bit of a surprise. I've got a USB stick with the latest BIOS for this board, which actually does support the 5600X that Austin bought. Obviously, this is gonna be different for every manufacturer's boards, but you know, this will just give you an idea of how to do it if you haven't seen it done before, right? First you want to do is get on a computer with internet access and download the BIOS file, put it on a USB stick, preferably FAT32. Don't use NTFS because it probably won't work. Plug it in, handy dandy Mr. Screwdriver to power up the test bench again. I should actually check the power again. I did it again, Claire. I'm silly.
Sorry.
You guys keep asking about this keyboard. It's an NZXT keyboard. It's a custom one from them that they sent us. So shout out to NZXT for this keyboard. They wanted us to review it, but I'm not doing it. Spam delete or F1. I mean, it's the OGs will know it's delete. F1 also works most of the time, or F2. It's like, hey, F1, see? Didn't like me. All right, so we're going to go with the mouse. I hate the fact that there's mouse support in the BIOS, by the way. I'm old school. Give me a keyboard. So we'll go M Flash. Hopefully you guys are following along. Some boards will boot into like a BIOS flashing environment. Others will just let you do it directly in the BIOS. We are entering flash mode. Okay, and there's the file there on the stick. Hopefully it's the right one. Do you want to select this file? Yes, of course we want to. You can see the different build dates for the BIOS here. So we'll go yes, and now it's updating the BIOS and we'll leave it a little while. I haven't actually mounted the CPU cooler to this properly because we're gonna pull the CPU out in a second. We're gonna test the BIOS update, but here's some lovely music that you can listen to while the BIOS updates. Did you like the music? Because the BIOS is now updated. Let's see if it posts. This is an unflattering and out of focus angle. I just want you guys to see the magic of BIOS updating. Wow. In its magicalness. DP usually means we're good. And that's a bit rude. Don't boot, don't boot. Uh-oh, it's booting. Old chip comes out, new CPU here, drop it in. And now, as I mentioned before, the best way to check this is just putting your finger on the center of the IHS, push down, but don't push down too hard, and then hold the CPU down while closing the socket, and you should be good to go. Okay, will it post with the new CPU that Austin bought? I did it again, literally, third time in a row. I'm feeling good about it, ladies and gents, and you should feel good about this too. You're gonna post with the new CPU. No signal again. It's probably doing a bit of memory training. This is excruciating. It's not posting with a supported BIOS version. A little bit of validation. Let's pull out a RAM module. Okay, I pulled a memory module out and we posted. Okay, we're good. All good, all good. Okay, I'm happy with that. Okay, you posted with both modules. The original module's plugged in now. Okay, we're good. And 16 gigs is detected. This stuff happens, ladies and gents. It is what it is. So, now that we know the new CPU works and the RAM works and the whole system works, let's actually pimp out Austin's PC. Now that we got all of that working, I've actually kind of hatched a little bit of a plan because this is a Gear Seekers video after all. I'm not just gonna fix it and put it all back together and make sure it works. What I wanna do is I want Austin to pay it forward with his hardware. And what I mean by that is this B450 board, now that we know that it works perfectly, is good to go. His CPU, his old one, works no problem, and his RAM works no problem. We're not gonna use this at all. I'm gonna give this back to Austin and I'm gonna tell him, build a PC for someone, do something nice for someone with this hardware. You know, that's what you should do. You know, if you're not using older hardware, pay it forward to someone else. Give them an experience that they wouldn't otherwise have. So here's what I'm going to do instead. Because he bought a 6600 XT and I don't want him to leave any performance on the table, I've decided that I'm gonna give him some new RAM, just for some RGB bling. So I'm gonna give him the MSI X570S Torpedo Max because this is a much more modern board. It's got PCIe Gen 4, so he's not leaving any performance on the table with his new GPU. And he'll be able to use smart access memory and that kind of stuff just to squeeze a little bit of extra performance out of his system. So let's rebuild his computer with this. I'm gonna put a new cooler in it, new fans, new everything. And when he picks it up tonight, he's gonna be very surprised, I can tell you that much. So let's get building. I've used this board probably an entirety of about once. A few little housekeeping things to do. First of those housekeeping things is installing a CPU in the socket. Right. Put his M.2 in. This is a SATA M.2, but it'll work in the bottom slot on this board without any issue whatsoever. A little bit of bling bling. I haven't even peeled these modules yet. Next, I'm gonna rip out all of the fans that he installed in this case. Goodbye. See you, fans. Bye-bye. That's it, ladies and gents, it's all done. I hope you enjoyed this type of video. I wanted to do this because this is actually something that I would do and not make a video about, and I quite often fix my friends' PCs and give them little upgrades, but today I was like, you know what, I wanted to show you this because we do quite a bit of this on the side. We don't do it as like a charity service or whatever, we just do it to help our mates out when they have a few problems. And I thought this one was a good opportunity for you guys to maybe learn something, so that's exactly why we did it that way. I know that some people like to have their reactions and whatnot filmed for when they get their PCs and whatnot, but I don't like surprising people. So if Austin lets me film his reaction to his PC, I'll put it in right now. This is Austin. I sorted his computer out. You guys already know what we did, but he hasn't seen it yet. He literally just walked through the door. So I want to show you what I did. You'll be surprised. Okay, come and look. All right, your computer's already on. They know, but you don't know. So what happened was the motherboard was fine.
Right, yeah.
The CPU was obviously popped out of the socket a little bit. I tested it with the 5600X, upgraded the BIOS, everything was fine. But I thought to myself, I'm like, you just bought a 6600 XT. The board doesn't even support PCIe Gen 4. Why not just change the board anyway? So I put an X570S Tomahawk Max in there because why not? And I gave you new RAM too because RGB. And then I put all NZXT fans, and basically because you bought an NZXT case, I completely NZXT-ified the whole thing. So the whole thing runs with NZXT hue, like all of the lighting. But there is one other thing. What I decided to do was, I always tell them they have to do this, but your old hardware, this is basically a computer that will run now.
Right.
It's motherboard, CPU, RAM, storage, whatever, and a GPU, it'll be a PC. So what I want you to do is, and I tell everyone this, you've got to pay it forward now. You've got to build a computer for someone else with this leftover hardware. And that's just how we do it around here. So, you know, make someone's life awesome.
I have a mate who's just about to buy a PC.
Mate,
Sure. Yeah.
absolutely make his day with that because I'm telling you, that is like, yeah. And if you need a case, or if you want to use your own case, whatever, if you need a case, like I told you the other day, I got you. We got hundreds of them. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. You want to say anything, man?
Oh man, it just looks insane.
Yeah, it turned out a lot better than I thought it would. That's for sure.
God, yeah.
Not everyone is a YouTube camera person who's used to being filmed, so it's okay. I hope you enjoy it, man.
Good.
This is what I do for all my friends. I always hook them up. But a lot of the time, we don't film this, and today I was just like, let's make a video. I did change the motherboard and CPU, but I wanted to do it because I just wanted to do something nice, and it's a much more modern board, and there's a couple things that may be limited if you choose to go B450. Unless you're on a complete budget, that's fine. B450 is excellent, but because Austin bought the 6600 XT, I want him to have the best experience with PCIe Gen 4. That's the only reason why I did it. Otherwise, I would have just left the old board. But you know, every little frame counts with games. So If I can make someone's life a little bit better, I will. But here's something I asked you guys to do last week or whatnot. But if you guys watch a Gear Seekers video, I want you to make a clip of you watching the video and upload it to Twitter and like tag us on Twitter, and then we'll put it in our video. And here's a clip from last week that I thought was funny.
This is from the guys at Gear Seekers.
0.1 or 2.2 slot. So that should fit, I would say, in here, but anything wider than that, I think you're going to be shit out of luck. There are some other...
Shit out of luck. Couldn't have described it any better. Superb. Get watching our stuff, so funny.
Anyways, guys, if you like the music you heard here, I make all the music. It's available by clicking that join button down below. Once again, make sure you're subscribed. Otherwise, I'll punch you through the screen. I'll threaten violence if you don't subscribe.
Someone get these hands.
Yeah. Once again, thank you so very much for watching. I'm your Wendigo Gear Seekers. You pick, we seeking. I appreciate you all very much, and thank you for watching.
And say no to violence.
No to violence. But it's funny if I could
It's
do
not
it.
the answer.
It could be the answer if I could do it through the screen.
Nope.
I would have strangled so many people.
Sir, please.